In the totally wild, up-and-down world of crypto, there's this massive, multi-trillion-dollar quest going on. And it's not for the next Bitcoin. Nope, it's for something way more fundamental: stable, reliable digital money. We're talking about stablecoins. And today, we are diving into the 6 competing blueprints in the race to build the actual future of finance.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on just how enormous this market really is. Then we're going to dissect the 6 core designs for these stablecoins. After that, we'll get into the really tough compromises every single one of them has to make, look at what happens when things go spectacularly wrong, and finally, peek into the future to see where all of this is headed.
Right. So why should you care? Why all the fuss? Well, it really boils down to one absolutely mind-blowing number. A number that shows just how critical stablecoins have become for pretty much everything happening in the digital economy. Yeah, that's the number. $27.6 trillion. That's the amount of value that has moved on-chain using stablecoins in 2024 alone. I mean, to put that into perspective, that is more than the combined annual transaction volume of Visa and Mastercard. So you can see this is not some niche little experiment anymore. This is basically a parallel financial system, and it's running at a truly global scale.
So what is a stablecoin at its core? It's actually a pretty simple idea. It's a crypto token that's designed to always be worth $1, or, €1, or 1 ounce of gold. It's the digital cash. It's the bedrock, the foundational layer that lets everything else in DeFi, decentralized finance, from trading to lending, actually work without the insane volatility you get with Bitcoin or Ether. It's the absolute essential bridge.
But how do you actually make a digital token hold its value? Well, it turns out there isn't just one way to do it. There are at least 6 totally different approaches, or blueprints, and each one has its own spark of genius and, of course, its own hidden dangers. Let's break them all down.
Okay, so the first and by far the most dominant blueprint is fiat collateralized. These things command over 90% of the market, and the reason they're winning is because the idea is just so simple. For every one digital dollar, like a USDC from the company Circle or USDT from Tether, the company swears it holds one real US dollar in a bank. It's intuitive, it's stable, but, and this is a huge but, it's centralized. You have to trust that company, and that makes them a massive target for regulators.
Now, for the folks who want to cut out the middleman completely, there's the crypto-collateralized model. Here, instead of trusting a company, you trust the code. The best way to think about it is like a digital pawn shop. To get, say, $100 worth of a stablecoin like DAI, you have to lock up maybe $150 of your Ethereum. That extra $50 acts as a safety cushion if crypto prices crash. It's all transparent, it's decentralized, but man, it's not very efficient with your capital.
Some projects take it even a step further. They don't just question the crypto system, they question the dollar itself. And that brings us to commodity-backed coins. A token like Pax Gold is backed by 1 troy ounce of real, physical gold sitting in a vault somewhere. It's a fantastic hedge against inflation, but it also comes with all the real-world headaches of storing and auditing physical stuff, which makes it a bit clunky and less liquid.
Now, for a while, the holy grail for a lot of developers was creating a coin with no backing at all, the pure algorithmic stablecoin. The whole thing is just code. It's an algorithm that tries to act like a little robot central bank, creating and destroying its own tokens to keep the price at exactly $1. In theory, it's super efficient and totally decentralized. In practice, well, that big, bold red failed next to Terra USD pretty much tells you everything you need to know about how that little experiment went. Okay, now we're seeing a powerful new idea emerge, one that asks a very simple question. What if your digital dollars could actually work for you? Enter the yield-bearing stablecoins. These take their reserve assets, whether it's boring old US Treasury bills or super complex crypto trades, and they pass the profits directly on to you, the holder. Your digital dollars literally earn you more digital dollars, just for holding them. It's a really compelling idea, but that yield can come with some pretty complex risks.
And finally, you've got the projects that think the answer isn't to pick just one path, but to blend them all together. These are the hybrids, like Frax. They try to get the best of all worlds. Maybe they're partly backed by real dollars and partly stabilized by an algorithm. The goal here is to find a better balance, but the trade-off is often that they become way more complex to understand.
And all of this brings us to the fundamental problem, the core challenge that every single one of these blueprints is wrestling with. It's known as the stablecoin trilemma, and it perfectly explains why creating the perfect digital dollar is so darn hard.
So here's the trilemma. It says you can have any two of these three amazing traits: perfect price stability, true decentralization where there's no single boss, and high capital efficiency, meaning you don't have to lock up extra money. You can pick any two, but you absolutely cannot have all three at the same time. You always have to make a compromise.
And this table just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the fiat-backed coins. 5 stars for stability and efficiency, fantastic, but just 1 lonely star for decentralization. Then you flip to the crypto-collateralized coins like DAI. 5 stars for decentralization, awesome, but they have to sacrifice capital efficiency to get there. And the pure algorithmic model, oh boy, it aimed for 5 stars on efficiency and decentralization, but it just spectacularly failed on stability. Every single design is a different set of choices, a different set of trade-offs.
So what happens when those choices go wrong? You have to remember, the word stable is an ambition. It's a goal. It is not a guarantee. And the history of crypto is littered with wreckage from when that ambition failed.
The most infamous cautionary tale, of course, is Terra USD, or UST. It was a pure algorithmic stablecoin. In May of 2022, a few big players started selling, and the $1 peg started to wobble. The algorithm completely panicked. It started printing its sister token, Luna, into oblivion to try and prop up USD. But that just crashed the price of Luna, which destroyed confidence, which caused even more people to sell USD. The result? A horrifying death spiral that vaporized $40 billion in just 3 days.
But it's not just the super risky algorithmic types. In March 2023, the so-called safe stablecoin, USDC, suddenly broke its peg and fell all the way to 87 cents. Why? Because a big chunk of its real dollar reserves were stuck in a failing traditional bank, Silicon Valley Bank. Now, it did recover, but that moment was a brutal reminder that even the most trusted models have these hidden risks, often tied to the very same old-school financial system they're trying to escape.
So, after all these hard lessons, where does the industry possibly go from here? Well, the future of stablecoins is really being shaped by 2 incredibly powerful forces. 1, aggressive new regulation, and 2, the constant, relentless innovation of yield.
Right, so governments are finally stepping in and setting some clear rules of the road. In the US, you've got the proposed Genius Act, which mandates one-to-one cash reserves and monthly audits. Over in Europe, the MiCA framework is even stricter. It explicitly bans the kind of pure algorithmic models that caused the Terra collapse. The Wild West era is officially over. And this isn't about shutting things down. It's about making stablecoins legitimate, trusted financial tools.
So the big takeaway here is that this whole space is growing up, and it's growing up fast. We're seeing huge institutional moves, like Circle, the company behind USDC, trying to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. That's Wall Street saying, okay, we're in. The insane growth of those yield-bearing coins tells you there's a huge hunger for digital dollars that actually do something for you, which totally challenges the idea that cash has to be lazy. And finally, we're seeing real momentum behind stablecoins pegged to the euro, the yen, and other major world currencies.
All of this leaves us with one final, really fascinating question. We started with this simple idea of a stable $1 token. But what we've seen is that stability is this complex dance, this trade-off between trusting companies, trusting code, and surviving massive market shocks. As money itself literally becomes programmable code, this whole quest for stability is forcing us to redefine what we actually mean by stable and what we really want our future financial system to look like.